Morning, everybody. I'm Eric Seeger with the City of Colorado Springs Communications, and we're here this morning to hear from our emergency management and public safety as well as utilities officials as the city and the region prepares to respond to the upcoming cold weather and the different responses that we'll have. So we'll hear from our speakers and then have questions at the end. So first up is Andrew Nottbaum, our director for the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management. Andrew?
All right, morning everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Andrew Nottbaum. I'm the director of the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management. And year-round, we are collaborating with our first response partners and our other partners to get ready for severe weather and all hazards. We're continually looking at improving our coordination and response to incidents. This extreme weather coming up, the message here is everybody needs to take this seriously, okay? This is an extreme cold event. It's going to be an extended period of time, potentially life-threatening cold weather through Tuesday morning. So you need to take a few things into consideration. If you don't need to go outside, please don't go outside. Okay. If you do venture outside, make sure you don't have bare skin exposed to the elements. Wear multiple layers and limit the time you are outside. If you are traveling in a vehicle, make sure you have an emergency preparedness kit within your vehicle, which has extra clothing, hand warmers, and supplies for if you get stalled or if your car doesn't end up working. Another consideration to make sure to think about is caring for pets and livestock. If you have pets and livestock that are normally outside, make sure that they are inside and think about the exposure that they have to the elements as well. Very important. Also, make sure you're checking in on your neighbors. Those people that are most vulnerable to extreme cold are elderly, children, and people who have chronic illnesses. So take this opportunity to meet with a neighbor and check on those neighbors. From an emergency management perspective, it is important that as a community, we're all preparing. So as a government and emergency management and the partner agencies up here, we are preparing, and it's important that the community take action to be prepared for this extreme weather. Finally, if you have non-emergency needs, we are opening up Pikes Peak United Way, the 211 hotline, for utilities, food, and emergency sheltering needs or assistance. And so you can call 211 for assistance if needed. It's my pleasure to introduce Amy Cox, who is the City of Colorado Springs Chief Housing and Homeless Officer, to talk about some additional assistance we're providing in the community.
Thank you, Andrew. So on my walk into work today, I noted it was probably about 46 degrees, and it's easy to become complacent when you're in the warm before the storm, as one of my colleagues here called it this morning. But make no mistake, cold weather poses a serious danger to people, especially people who are living unsheltered, and the city is encouraging all people to come inside. So in response to this cold weather and the upcoming storms, the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management activated its extreme weather sheltering coordination plan. And the city has been coordinating with local shelters to prepare for these extreme temperatures to serve people in need. The primary shelter providers during this incident will be the Springs Rescue Mission and Hope COS. The Springs Rescue Mission is located at 5 West Las Vegas and will activate its severe weather protocol, which means they will expand daytime and nighttime hours. They're providing 3 meals a day, and they will provide access to essential services. They are open to adults who are able to care for themselves without assistance. Hope COS will activate its emergency shelter at the 1930 West Colorado Avenue. This is the Sanctuary Gym, and it is open to adults and families with children. They also provide meals, and they are prepared to open additional sites as needed throughout this storm. Transportation is always a big question, so anyone needing a ride to a shelter can call 719-401-3111. This service is a partnership between Hope COS, Silver Key, and VITA, and the Colorado Springs Fire Department to get people transported to these safe shelters. The priority over the next few days will be saving and protecting lives during these very, very dangerous conditions. Serious injury or death is a real risk. So again, we are encouraging all residents to stay inside. The city is helping to coordinate this response, but ultimately we can't do this without our community partners. And many of these are local nonprofits really rely on support of our community members. So to provide those resources to people in need. So if you are looking for how you can support our local nonprofits, please visit the social media pages or the websites for Hope COS and the Springs Rescue Mission to learn how you can support. It's my pleasure now to turn this over to Ira Cronin, the Public Relations Manager for CSPD.
Thank you, Amy. Good morning, everybody. It's, for any who need the spelling, IRACRONIN. So first off, we don't anticipate any delay or interruption to normal police operations through this cold weather emergency. As always, 365 days a year. If you're aware of a life-threatening injury, of course, please call 911. If there's a fire or a police situation that is non-emergent, we urge you to call our non-emergency line, 719-444-7000. Ahead of this, earlier beginning this week, the Colorado Springs Police Department's HOT team, as well as our partners at the Colorado Springs Fire Department's HOP team, have been out and have been proactively contacting members of our homeless community, communicating the extreme cold that will be arriving tonight and into tomorrow for the coming days. And certainly encouraging all of them to prepare, to seek shelter, to find accommodations, and to take the necessary steps. Both teams have also been handing out socks. We know that frostbite is a real concern for this community in these types of emergencies, as well as hats. But again, the main message has been encouraging them to make plans to seek shelter through this. Our patrol shifts through the weekend and early into the week will be advised of all of the resources that Amy just talked about that are connected with the 211 line. So that's information that our patrol officers will have, and this will be a primarily patrol response to help through this community or through this situation. Obviously, we are expecting a little bit of snow with this cold as well. So again, just real quick, if roads do become an issue, Colorado Springs Police Department will go on accident alert status or cold reporting. We'd ask the media to help us out, as you guys always do. We'll put that out on our public web blotter, as well as our 911 Emergency Center, Communication Center. We'll post that on their Twitter account as well. So again, just a quick reminder for accident alert status or cold reporting: if you're involved in a minor accident, no one is killed or injured, no drugs or alcohol involved, the wreck did not damage public property, such as road signs or utility poles, and all drivers on the accident are still on scene and are all agreeable to exchanging information, then we encourage you to go to coloradosprings.gov and go to the CSPD webpage, look for our online reporting section. There you'll find a button that says report a minor accident, and that will link you up actually where these reports are filed are with the Colorado Department of Revenue. You'll fill out that accident report form. You'll get a case number that you then have to use to communicate with your insurance company. Cold traffic accident reporting forms are also available at the Police Operations Center downtown and at any of our 4 substations across the city. Now I would like to introduce Brian Babcock with Colorado Springs Utilities.
Thank you, Ira. Hi, I'm Brian Babcock from Colorado Springs Utilities, and really, first of all, I'd like to say our appreciation to our community partners as we prepare for this weather event, and really as we try to serve our customers and throughout our region. Really want to talk first about what Colorado Springs Utilities is doing in preparing for this cold weather event. It's a high demand situation for natural gas, of course, as it's used for heating throughout our customers. So we first thing we would do is store additional natural gas. That helps us ensure the reliability of our system and also helps us manage our expenses during those high demand situations. We also prepare our propane air plant to run during this type of an event. The propane air plant injects propane into the natural gas system. That provides, again, more reliability for the natural gas system, as well as helps us manage those costs. The other thing we're doing is really around preparation of our employees to respond to different types of events through the weekend. These are things we do 24/7 throughout the year, but in this type of situation, we want to make sure we have very crisp response so that folks remain in service for all their different services that you depend on us every day. We've also do things like delay maintenance, make sure our plants, our generation, water, wastewater plants, all of our other assets and infrastructure are available. So we would delay outages or things like that until we get through this cold spell. So there are things that you can do as customers and as users of our services, certainly around heating of your homes or businesses, adjusting your thermostats to no higher than 68 degrees when you're home, or 60 degrees when you're away, is a good way to help ensure your utility bill is managed. We also do offer a $50 rebate for smart thermostats, so we encourage you to take advantage of that, and it helps you to be able to manage manage the indoor temperatures easily. Second thing would be around frozen pipes, so especially in walls that are external walls where pipes are at. They have a tendency to obviously freeze when it gets very cold. So if you open a faucet, let a little drip, that will help prevent freezing. You can capture that water with a bucket or something to use for watering the plant or some other internal use. You can always open a cabinet door, things like that, to get a little more heat to where those pipes are at. You can make a run down to your local hardware store, buy some insulation. It's a very inexpensive way to provide additional safety for those pipes. Your furnace is going to be running a lot throughout the weekend, so you want to make sure that furnace is in good operating condition. Probably the easiest thing you could do is replace the air filter, as that filter gets full of dirt and other things, causes that furnace to have to work harder, which takes more energy. So quick and easy thing you can do about once a month is a good rule of thumb during times when that's running regularly. And also when you're wanting to heat your house or your business, make sure you're using proper equipment for that heating. You don't never want to use a stove or an oven, barbecue, anything that's not rated for heating. It creates a very significant safety risk to any occupants of that dwelling. Really, carbon monoxide kills people every year, so you want to make sure you're only using appropriate devices for heating. And if you want to go to csu.org, there's more safety tips and more energy conservation tips. So we do encourage you to take a look at the webpage. And with that, I will pass it to Corey Rivera from the City of Colorado Springs Snowplowing Operations Team.
Thanks, Brian. So the City of Colorado Springs is preparing for this snow event that comes through throughout this weekend, starting tonight. It is looking like it's going to be a front-loaded snowstorm, possibly. The heaviest band is going to be coming tonight into tomorrow morning, and then slow down from there as the temperature gets colder. The roadways are not being pre-treated in the City of Colorado Springs at this time. The chemical that we have for de-icing is not made for pre-treating our roadways, and so we are not pre-treating our roadways from there. As the temperature gets colder and the snow accumulation starts going in, the city will freeze. I will say that. It will freeze up. At that point, our protocols at that point is to provide safe traction to all motorists that are out on the roadway. And so we will not be melting out the snow throughout this weekend, throughout this very cold blast of air that's coming through. We're going to be providing just traction only on through that. We have 50 snowplow trucks that are up and running throughout the entire city of Colorado Springs. We are starting our 24-hour protocols starting at noon today with our PM crews coming in at noon and going to start working around the clock starting this afternoon all the way through this event. Don't be surprised that our plow operators will probably continue on through Monday, Tuesday, and next week as well. Other than that, the motorists that are out on the road, please be careful around our plow trucks. It is going to be icy conditions on there. Please don't crowd the plow on our trucks. They're out there trying to provide that safe traction for everybody. It runs a risk if you come around the plow and hit that icy road before our plow truck can actually put some kind of material down on through there. So please give us some space on the roadway from there. With that being said, that's all I have. Eric?
Thanks to our speakers. One point of clarification, the transportation number for our homeless response will be active at 5 p.m. tonight. So probably not a need for it right now during the day when it's so warm, so that will be active at 5 p.m. We'll go ahead and take questions and have the speakers come up and answer questions as they come. Ryan, you got first one.
Couple of questions for utilities. First thing being, Martin Drake is gone. This is our first cold snap since the power plant's been disassembled, torn down. With that being gone, how are we looking as far as providing power to the city during this cold snap? I know those new gas generators are up, but how is this going to look different compared to previous cold incidents?
Yeah, that's a great question. We certainly have generation assets as well as agreements for purchasing power as necessary to meet the demand of our customers. So we are fully prepared to meet that demand. We do see similar peak demands in wintertime that we do see in summer. So just because it's not hot out doesn't mean we don't consume as a service territory a large amount of energy. We do, but we are absolutely prepared for that. And we'll be able to deliver that through this cold spell.
And then the cold weather is definitely going to put a strain on the. I've seen this kind of cold before, and I've seen what it can do to electrical lines and anything above ground. What are you guys anticipating as far as a strain on the electrical grid?
Yeah, on our transmission and distribution system, right now we're not expecting anything out of the ordinary. This time of year, we would expect snow, but snow loads the infrastructure and causes damage, or it causes trees to fall into our infrastructure, a very common thing. But very light snow is not going to have any material effect. Ice could be another type of thing. We're not expecting a significant ice loading on the infrastructure to cause any damage. So at this point, we're prepared for any type of response, but we don't expect anything out of the ordinary due to just this particular cold event.
And then in terms of responses, this is a hypothetical, but something I was thinking about. Say a power box. I'm thinking like those big power boxes that you see on the sides of the roads and stuff. Somebody accidentally slides and hits one of those. That's going to cause an electrical outage. People are going to lose heat. Is utilities prepared for incidents like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We see damage from vehicles throughout the year, especially during snow events when the roads get icy and slippery. People hit things, switches, transformers, utility poles, street lights, all those things. And we have folks on standby or on shift 24/7 across all the different services. We're talking electric and specifically where we have first responders available 24/7 to respond, make the area safe, do different things such as switching to restore service to our customers, and as well as our construction crews to make permanent repairs. So we are prepared for that. And for this particular event, like similar events previously, we've already stood up an IC, an incident command structure, to ensure that we have resources identified and ready to go, in addition to those normal resources that we would have 24/7, 365.
With Curio, just to kind of add to utility type question, what advice would you give? You talked a little bit about the proper ways to kind of heat your home. You don't use oven or stove things like that. Space heaters are pretty popular, but we know those can definitely be a little dangerous if people are not keeping them on overnight or putting them near something they shouldn't be, or just fireplaces, things of that nature. What advice, I guess, do you give for people to just be wary of? Don't have 3 of these things plugged in around your house. Whether it's a cost to them, but also just the danger.
Yeah, I think the key thing there is, make sure you're using something as a device that's designed for that intended use. So space heaters are a proper device intended to heat a space, to heat a room, to provide isolated heating. That's certainly an acceptable source of heat. So again, we mentioned things. People do bring a barbecue grill in a house and fire it up. You don't want to do that. That's a way to cause a fatality. It gets very serious very quickly. So utilizing those properly rated devices, not overloading circuits in your house. So you start plugging a bunch of high energy consumption device like a resistive heater. You can blow a breaker in your house, and then now you don't have potentially power in your house and to run your furnace, let alone some of those other devices. So just make sure you're buying a properly rated quality product so that you can both provide that heat and not create a safety incident or a situation for yourself or someone you care about.
Is there anything the consumers, the community can do to help not overload you guys?
Probably the easiest thing to do is just look at the rating, the rating on the device you're trying to plug in, and then it gets probably a little too much to the depth of of a press conference. But circuits have capacity limits, and so you just want to spread those out through your home. If you're trying to add some more devices to be able to provide spot type heating. If you trip a breaker, that was too much.
I had a question I wanted to open up to the floor if anyone had a response, but I believe it was Andrew that kind of explained. I know all of our agencies are constantly working to improve our coordination and response.
Yep.
Is there any lessons learned from previous storms that we are working to implement into this response, or anything we've learned as these storms we've passed through and we're coming up onto another one that you'd like to see this time around?
I would just say that as far as our organization, we're mission driven. It's about resources, communication, coordination, and community support. So the nice thing about these cold spells is we can lean forward and do coordination calls in before the event. And so a lot of that's been going on this week, working with the Weather Service, making sure the forecast is on track, making sure our partners are at the table, who needs food resources, can we work with Care and Share, our partners. Amy talked about this, transportation resources. Do we have an on-call or a system built up to get resources to our partners to help support our unhoused communities? So a lot of lessons learned, a lot of lessons applied this time around. And so it's a continual process of improvement. I think it's going very well, and we're well prepared to respond to this event.
Question for the city / roadways, the gentleman who was speaking, I think most recently. Just to clarify with what you said before, we don't want to, have people maybe misunderstand it or maybe get a little frustrated. So you're saying you guys weren't pre-treating the roads necessarily, and that you're pretty much have to kind of let them get icy, and then you're going to try and do some stuff over the weekend to mitigate that. I guess I'm just.
There's going to come a point when the snowfall comes in and the roadways will freeze over. When those roadways do freeze over, that's when we will just provide traction at that point, only because the cold spell is lasting for a long period of time. Trying to melt down these roadways will just cause refreezing throughout the roadway, so we're going to just let it freeze over. When it freezes over, we're just going to maintain it in that frozen status and provide traction. Up front, we will try to provide as much meltdown as we can. Great temperatures like today and good sunlight is giving us our good ground temperature, so we'll have initial melting. There will be water on the roadways. There's going to come a point when that will freeze over and cause a black ice or a slippery condition. We'll try to manage through that, and then once we're into that frozen, it's just provide traction.
Corey, can you talk a little specifically about what kind of traction, what kind of material?
So when we go into our traction-based material, it's more of an anti-skid. It's a granular material, squeegee mix that has very little salt content in it. The whole purpose of the salt content in that is just to help the piles from freezing up inside the trucks or in our facilities. But it is going to be like a sand-based material that's out on the ground, just to give that traction to the tires, between the tires and the ice, obviously.
And Corey, can you talk a little bit about like the de-icer that it gets too cold, that it doesn't work?
Oh, so we have what we do is we have a natural salt based out of Utah right now. It's called Ice Slicer, and it works down to a certain degree temperature that we have. The more that we try to use this material, I mean, it works great. It's what we use on a lot of our primary roadways to maintain it through our normal snowstorms on through there. It is like a brine kind of material on through there. So once it starts, it needs water to keep it activated on through there. And because of the really, really cold temperatures, that water is going to freeze up and not start that into the activation to create that brine to melt down the roadway. And that's why we have to go into that, just provide anti-skid status.
Does that answer your question, Tyler?
No, it totally does. I think the one other thing I was just gonna say, it might be a question for our weather people, who know that for a living, but I think, the idea of the snow falling over and having that frozen layer underneath, you might not be able to tell or see that, and so I guess just kind of a warning for drivers to really be wary, especially because you're kind of saying, there's only so much we can really do over the next few days.
Yeah, how can drivers drive on the road?
Right.
Do you have advice for that?
Take your time. Plan for extra time when commuting. If you have to commute out through there, obviously the key point on this is don't go out unless you absolutely have to during that time. But if you absolutely have to, take that additional time, extra space in between vehicles around you. Go slower on there. Obviously, look at your vehicle that you have right there. Good tires on the vehicle. If it has four-wheel drive, know how to engage and disengage that in through this process. And four-wheel drive is not four-wheel stop, so please keep that distance on everything on through there. But you know, or everybody knows their own vehicle and what it can and can't do. But give it some time. The anti-skid that is out on the roadway will provide some traction. It's not a end all on through there. If you're from the northern part of the country here, where you know when the ground is frozen, it's frozen forever. That's gonna be what it's gonna feel like for the next 3 or 4 days.
And then Corey, just because I know some viewers are gonna hear you guys don't pre-treat the roads, and they might get frustrated from that. They're coming from a different area of the country. You know, this is something we talked to you guys about before. There is a legitimate reason why you guys don't pre-treat the roads. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So the liquid chemical that we have draws moisture. It's attracted to moisture. And so if we pre-treat the roadways now, it's going to draw that moisture faster into that roadway, and it's actually going to cause more of a black ice than actually help. And so it hurts us more than it actually helps us. And so we actively have to have moisture falling. The snow has to be falling before we can put down the chemical. And that's what activates that chemical. And a pre-treatment does not prevent the icing on the road. It just slows it down so we have time to react to it faster. The roadway will still freeze over. It just slows that time period down.
I've got a question for utilities. Usually whenever we have these big freezes, cold weather events, we see water mains break. It doesn't happen every single time. How are you guys preparing for that possibility?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do see a correlation between kind of freeze-thaw cycles and how that impacts our infrastructure, our water system infrastructure. As that ground contracts, it puts stress on that pipe. So we've seen kind of an uptick in the last week. We track this and we respond to each one, and we do root cause analysis for each type of failure, so that we can learn from those and make sure we're putting programs in place to manage that infrastructure. So wouldn't see an increase over this weekend just due to the freeze necessarily. It's already pretty close to we're a temperature band that is not going to have a dramatic effect. But if we do, we will have folks respond immediately. We respond 24/7 when somebody's out of service, no matter what the service is. We are very cognizant of Corey's job with streets. And when we have water on the street, and obviously these temperatures, it will freeze. So we want to certainly minimize that, why we respond and restore service to our customers.
I have a question for Andrew. Obviously, Colorado Springs is a city that's continuously growing and having people from different regions, warmer regions. Is there anything that is at the top of concern for emergency management, and maybe some things newer people to the area should look out for over this very cold event?
For the cold specifically, you know, I think I said it earlier, that you know, these are serious temperatures, and exposure to these temperatures can cause bodily harm, and if you're exposed for an extended period of time, can be fatal. So you know, having situational awareness is what we talk about, making sure you're plugged into sources of the media, getting good information, tracking the forecast. You know, having conversations with your neighbors is really important. People who have lived here before will have an understanding, or have been here for a longer period of time will have an understanding of what those hazards are in your community, whether it's going to be severe weather or wildfire or flooding. It's part of our programming in general. Is you should have personal awareness as a community member of what those threats and hazards are in your community, and then how you can take action to prepare for those.
And then I got a question, and either Amy or Ira probably answer this one. We are still going to have individuals in the homeless population who are going to be out in the cold. Maybe they don't want to go to the shelter necessarily, even though it might be the best thing for them. How are you guys going to be able to, is the hot team, I'm sure the hot team's probably going to go out and check, but are there any other ways that we're going to be checking on people who are going to be out in these conditions?
I think that's a PD question.
Yeah, again, so, you know, we've been as proactive as we can be. And again, I'm just going to default back, right? So if you see someone who you think might be in crisis, that's kind of a personal decision kind of situation, right? I mean, my advice, I think I would attempt to contact that individual and check on their safety. And then obviously, if they are having a safety problem, if their health is in danger, then that's the time to call 911. If it's maybe not so emergent, maybe that's a call to the non-emergency line. But again, that's why our teams have been, you know, so proactive in handing out these little cards. And I've got a few of them for each of the reporters. But again, it lists the 211 number that Andrew mentioned off the top, and the addresses and locations of all the, you know, the help centers. So yeah, ultimately, you know, it's not against the law to stay outside when it's super cold, even if it's a bad decision. So we're not going to compel anybody, but we are going to be there to offer the resources. And we've already through the week been, you know, offering the encouragement and kind of preparing them as best we can. And like I said, this will be a patrol response through the weekend. Hot team gets back to work on Monday, but as patrol officers get calls for service for any situation, they'll be responding to those. So again, that would include if you observe somebody, we would, you know, I would suggest if you feel safe doing so, please contact them, check on them, ask them if they're okay. If you can determine there's an emergency, a medical situation going on, please call 911. So that's just going to be such an individual case-by-case thing, because we do know that there are some members of our homeless community that are extremely resilient and prepared, and whether it's a good idea or not, they're going to try and ride it out. We've tried to encourage them to maybe make decisions ahead of time, but as they maybe if they get into it and they realize they're in over their head, again, hopefully they've got this information, they'll be able to take, you know, action, or they'll be able to contact 911 if they're in medical distress, or the non-emergency number if they need help otherwise.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you everyone for attending. I would just add at the end that we do have an extreme cold resource page on pproam.com, and I'll make sure that you all get the press release, so it will be sent out as well, and has a lot of what was talked about here today. And just thank you for coming, and appreciate you guys sharing our preparedness and safety messages as we head into this cold weather incident. Thank you.